so much. Whenever you're ready.
The column we rolling? We are. All right, great.
All right, welcome to the committee meetings. This is the Finance Committee meeting. We will get started. Is there any public comment?
There is none, sir.
All right. The meeting minutes from May were distributed.
Motion to approve.
Got a motion to approve.
So moved.
Glenn.
The second, Glenn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 The minutes, any further discussion? The minutes are approved. Financial statements. We have another very nice report. Todd?
Thank you, Frank. Good morning, everybody. Go to the month of May, almost getting halfway there. Wow, it's hard to believe we're almost halfway through the year. Don't remind me.
Tell me about it.
So, start off with the traffic report. As you heard us talk about it the last couple of months, we flirted with 2019 levels. You go back to April, we were almost at 2019 levels for that particular month. The month of May, we kind of eclipsed it, knocked it out of the park. Our best May since 2014. You can see that
2004.
Excuse me, 2004. I don't know what I said. 2004. I'll get it right. 2004.
It's a long time.
And you can see the green marks the best month. So that really was the Allegiant, really driving that traffic. See that big number there versus last year. Legacy traffic, obviously, moving along a lot better than last year, but still 2019 much better than 5 months through the year.
Hit the power button.
Oh,
No.
no, hit your button.
Okay. Year-to-date traffic, again, you can see how we're getting close to 2019. See how that's trending up for us, getting really close to that, really good stuff. Traffic, we do this year-to-date. You can see how much we depend on Allegiant. 48.4% of our traffic is Allegiant, followed by Delta, and then American.
Early report on the American bus, how's it running, how full is it?
Very well, actually. So there's 35 seats on the coach, and just talking with the staff here, very often the bus is full, or 33 seats full, or so it's been very well received and very very well utilized at this point.
Are they going to be able to get it behind the security line, or are we stuck?
They're still working on it.
Okay.
We haven't heard an update, so we'll continue to just continue to operate as we are until we get any different word from American. But I know they're still working on that.
Is there any,
Go ahead.
no, any expedited experience as far as checking in down there for the people that come on the bus?
Same experience. They're checking in upstairs. They're coming downstairs, then to proceed out to multimodal. So very similar.
Signage to get people to the bus is good. I came in through that hallway, so I walked by the security line. Got that and the sign on the glass and everything, so that works well.
Right, trying to make sure we're getting people pointed in the right direction.
Talk about our benchmarking. This is all U.S. airports. Not much different than last month because we were, this is through June 11th. You can see all airports throughputs going through the checkpoint is up versus 2019, almost 1%. You can see we're down, call it 3.64% versus 2019. Our seats, however, are up versus all U.S. airports, which are down. Then we go to our benchmarking, our 10 airports that we compare ourselves to. These are the ones we also use for our year-end kind of benchmarking that we do for a lot of our matrices. And you can see there that our peer average is about minus 23%. And the seats are down for our peer average about 19%. So compared to our peers, we're doing pretty good. Then as far as the month of May, we had a good month. We did get almost 600,000 of cares, but we had almost $1 million of net, well not even almost, more than $1 million of cares, more than $1 million of net income. That includes CARES of about 600,000, but $1 million is $1 million, and that's favorable to budget by 255K. You can see a lot of that is revenue driven, aviation services, and we've managed to keep our expenses down, and you'll see what's going on in the year to date. But a lot of that is, we talk about our budget of integrity, that year to date count has kind of given us some flexibility there. We're getting closer and closer to the number we had budgeted. I should say creeping there. But the other expenses are starting to come up just because of what's going on with the economy as a whole.
Do we have CARES in the budget?
I was just
Yes.
saying that,
We had 600,000 in the budget. I think we took out 598,000 and change.
So I think what Mike's asking, so the 761,000 included 600 in CARES.
For the budget, so, yeah.
So yeah, that is an apples to apples comparison. So like I said, it was like $1,000 different in the CARES. So we budgeted 761 with 600,000 of CARES. So you can see that number obviously isn't quite as nice without the CARES. I guess somebody doesn't like my work. Anyway. Sorry. Wrong way. Year to date. Okay. So year to date, May again, we've had kind of a nice running start to the first 4 months we talked about last month. And this month, because we had another favorable month, we are favorable to budget almost $2 million. You know, if you look at our operational income, which is not really reflected in here, our operational income is doing pretty well. Actually, I think we've had the best operational income that we've had in a long time. I mean, better than 2019. Unfortunately, or fortunately, however you want to look at it, we have a lot of infrastructure that we have to kind of pay for, which is a lot higher than 19. But as far as operational income, the income before depreciation and infrastructure, that number is up without CARES pretty good. But you can see a lot of it's revenue driven, aviation services. You know, we had slightly lower lower than budgeted flights. We also have some airline settlement budgeted into our revenue numbers at this point as well as our expenses went down. See what kind of drives the, you know, our net income there. You can see at the very bottom there, that CARES number is actually the biggest number on there. I mean, parking is 1.6, but CARES is 1.637. So again, good stuff, but CARES is kind of leading the charge. Aviation services, aviation lease, and you get down into some of the bottom ones there, 9 and 10. And you can see airfield and terminal are, you know, being subsidized by some of the other things. Again, these are the 3 big variances the same ones we talked about last month. Nothing much has changed since last month, but you can see, you know, salary, wages, and benefits. Again, that budget of integrity is kind of carrying a big part of those budget variances. Aviation services, excluding de-icing, is next, and then you've got the de-icing revenue, which we're out of the de-icing season at this point. But you can see the cost of fuel and de-icing is kind of pretty close to everything else. So if we actually included the cost of fuel and de-icing in those numbers would actually be a little lower. The FTEs, we always talk about them. You can see here for the month of May, we're at 200. Again, and our count was going up, but our FTEs are coming up. We looked in on our dashboard as far as some of the positions. We got a lot of positions out there now, a lot more applicants than we've had in previous times. So things seem to be picking up for us, which is a good thing.
One of the things we talked about in our prep meeting that we're starting to see, and I'm hearing this from our clients, is retirees coming back into the workforce because the market's down a lot, and inflation's eating up a smaller remaining pie.
Yep.
Are we doing anything in terms of reaching out to recent retirees to see whether they have an interest in coming back?
Yeah, that's one of the items on our list as we've discussed. So
Yep.
to see, I know we've had you know, some actually coming back to us without us reaching out to them.
Yep.
But I think it's really an interesting point that we can do some outreach there.
You may only get them for a year or two, but you don't have to train them.
Right.
So, and you don't have to, it's phone calls opposed to a heavy recruitment effort.
Right.
one thing for us, though, we don't have a huge retiree population, so that's, I mean, so, but we do have some, as Tom indicated, we
There you go,
have.
5, that's 5 more than you had.
Yeah.
5 more, everybody's happy, so. And you don't have to train them, as you said,
Yeah.
so it comes on.
And you know what you're getting, you know who not to call. We're happy Todd retired, yeah. Enjoy the beach.
Wow, that's a tough crowd today.
For example. Look, I'll pick it.
Man, oh man, that's a tough crowd today. Cash flow, kind of going through where we are in the cash flow. Items in yellow, items that have changed from last month. Not a whole lot's changed. We took off a lot of some of the connector stuff on the bridge stuff. But again, you can see where we are on the fixed stuff. Capital, on the one item there I want to point out to is item line 20. I mean, that's one of the things we're going to talk about in the next thing that we talk about for our capital. We did put in 600,000. We have 2 properties that we've been talking about. The original one had 300. We've been keeping that 600,000 in there. When we talk about it later, we moved it from 300 to 600. So that's one of the things that changed when you look at that variance. You'll go, well, we've always had the 600 here. Whether or not we buy it or not, that's just kind of a placeholder. But originally, we said we're going to buy one, and it's 2 of them kind of.
So it's been in our cash flows, but not in the capital budget.
Within that, those 2 have been on our cash flow, correct.
Okay.
And all items that we're bringing up that we're going to talk about next are in the cash flow. So they're always in the cash flow.
Yep.
Cash flow is updated a lot more frequently than obviously our budget, which are once a year. So
Yep.
again, it's just kind of bringing stuff up to date that we have in our financials, but are not specifically spelled out. And you can see our next, just for reference, our next CARES draw is probably scheduled for August. I think we're probably going to request it in July. Expect to get it probably around August. Just as a heads up, and you see the next one after that is in November. You see that on number 24. Just follow it, so that's what we have budgeted.
After that 1.7, how much in remaining CARES money will we have, or will that be it?
The plan was for us to use all of our CARES this year.
Okay,
CARES
so that
is-
1.7 would be it. We wouldn't have any additional.
Yeah, I think, I don't know if we have anything for November or
We have
December.
ARPA.
Yeah, we have the
Well,
ARPA
out of
money.
CARES.
But our plan was to
Yeah, that's a different pot.
CARES and Sarissa by the end of this year. And then we're getting into ARPA, which is separate. Because again, you gotta remember, there's a time limit on some of these things. So we certainly want to use the resources. Again, you can see, kind of our contingency that we put in there for people that weren't around when we had that. That was the contingency we added in just to give us a little bit more peace of mind. Number line 29, our former chairman, Eddie Lozano, that was something that he was big on putting in there. A lot of this stuff, when we talk about some of our evolution of some of our stuff, has been kind of a staff board collaboration over the years, and we've kind of morphed each year into better and better stuff. And then you can see our cash flow kind of pushed out 12 months. The other one is 6. It just gets hard to kind of show it all on one slide. But you can see that our lowest as far as time is January, which is about 6 months cash on hand. And then we go up to 295, which is about 10 months, a little bit more than 10 months cash on hand. Any questions? Yes?
With the FTEs, there's 27 open positions. Is there a way to identify what those positions are? Can you show that in an Excel sheet?
And we have it. I mean, I can show you. I mean, I can kind
Are
of
they
get it.
full-
I mean, it's
are they full-time or part-time?
they're FTEs, so there would be some part-time and some full-time. It's just, so when we say FTEs, it's 40 hours a week. So that could be 2 20-hour people or 1 full-time person. It's just, that's how we kind of, average it out otherwise. Because I think we had 300, I think it's about 307 total positions budgeted. And I think we're at, I want to say we're at 270 something, I think. The last time I looked, something like that. So, yes.
I'd answer that question. Saw the success of the icing program.
Yes.
At one time, we were looking at selling our glycol to all the carriers, get the carriers out of the glycol business. We do have a hydrant right outside the fence here where you could do the mixing and what have you. I just was curious, was there any consideration to get that, increase the glycol business because it's certainly successful.
I'll let Darren or Connie or
Connie may-
or
maybe
Connie
you
answer
wanna-
that one.
Larry, we've already started selling it. We sell it to United right now. And we're in the process. We got additional tanks installed so we can increase our capacity a little bit, just to be prepared in case there is a shortage for next winter. And de-icing is such an important part of our business. So coincidentally, we had a stakeholders meeting yesterday and we talked about selling our Type 4. So, yeah, it's moving along.
Mystery solved.
Yeah, hang on. She heard you. Any other questions?
Yeah, on the expense side, we're
Yes.
down, we're down 10%.
10%.
Right.
Let's go back.
I think it was like 10.3.
Go back up.
Just, I guess I must have missed what that was due to.
Go back there. I just want to put that back up. Go ahead. You're talking for the month or for the year-to-date?
No, this is year to date.
Year-to-date is 9%, and a lot of it, if you go, so that's you mean versus budget? So that's why I do this sheet here. So this is the sheet that kind of summarizes, most of that variance is on the salaries and wages
Okay.
because of the head count. So like I said, we were at I think for the first 5 months, we were about 226, 227. And we are about 195 average, so if you do the math,
The
that's.
budget was based upon full employees.
Right, that's why we said so,
Got it.
right. So that's a big part of
That was
it.
the anticipation to be fully. Okay.
So that's the biggest portion. Some of the other ones could be timing, because it's hard to figure out until you get to maybe 6 or 7 months. But that's the biggest bulk of it. And then some of it is just well managed, but it's not, that we're so much better on a lot of stuff. We're managing as best as we can. But a lot of it, like I said, if you think about, that's why we always call it a budget of integrity, because, a lot of these positions, when we did our budget at the end of November, we budgeted them for 1/1. There was no way, unless we just got the luckiest, that we're gonna hire some of these positions on 1/1. But we advertised them, and if we got them, we got them. So that's why we call it a budget of integrity, where other folks would say, why don't you budget it in April or May when you think you're gonna get the people? We budget them 1/1 in case we got lucky. And that's kind of giving us some of that variance, which we're gonna need with some of these expense numbers going up on the back end with utilities and all those other stuff that we didn't foresee at that time.
It's working for us. So again, your conservative approach to the budget and budgeting for full employment from the get-go is
Right.
working for us well.
And any other?
But it could be a little bit misleading, that we look at expenses are down. The reason is because the workforce isn't 100% at the airport.
Right.
The hope would be that you're 100% workforce and expenses are still down 9%. That'd be
Right.
awesome.
And we still manage the other ones or within line. So
Right.
that is something that we do look at. So if you look at P&L number 3 on your exhibit, it breaks down a lot of the non-salary numbers there by line item.
Yep.
And kind of goes through them, and you can see where they're being managed there.
Right.
But this one, but if you think about our costs, our biggest costs are obviously personnel. So.
Usually is.
Right, I mean, the 10%, you're not gonna happen unless you're touching personnel in some way.
Okay.
But you're right, you're a good point. Any other questions, concerns? Okay,
All right, so we'll move to accept the financial statements.
I'll make,
So moved.
All right, we
I'll
got
second.
Paul and Glenn. All in favor? Any other discussion, rather? All in favor? Aye?
Yay. Yes.
All right, we're moving on to the capital budget amendment, Ryan.
Thank you, Frank. Morning, everybody. So this kind of connects a little bit with what Todd just mentioned in terms of the cash flow conversation. But what we wanted to do is just bring forth to the board and the committee just some of the variances in our Exhibit B that we had in our operating capital budget that went through the departmental projects, some of the smaller items. So really what we did is based on estimates, we put the numbers in there, and once we get quotes, and obviously with the market changes, there's some variances between the different projects. So I want to go to the attachment so that, so what we actually did was we put in, for ones we haven't received quotes on yet, we put in a 5% contingency, which is the yellow items in the current budget. And then ones that actually went under in terms of the quote are in green. And the ones in white are basically some of the variances. So if you go up, so some of them, a lot of this is due to timing. As Todd mentioned, we go through actually weekly, the finance team and myself, the cash flow projections. So one of them, for example, that line 5, we had assumed we'd have to pay, and we talked about this, I think, last year with the board, that hangar 9 door repair. We assumed we were going to make all of the payments this year. Due to the timing, they actually got the work done sooner, so the final payment was this year, so that was the delta from the cash flow side of things. Going down, same thing, number 8, some of the bag belt sensors. We programmed 30. When we actually went in, the whole system had to be completely upgraded, so that was the delta of the 131,000. You can see number 13, as Todd mentioned, the property acquisitions. Again, having it in the cash flow, but really showing it here as a line item that we're tracking. And some of the other variances based on what we've thought. So for example, that number 11, the firehouse HVAC replacement, we thought that was going to be a bigger project that would require consulting and design services. Turns out it's getting the train the manufacturer out here. There's some upgrades that we could do just on purchasing some of the new cooling equipment. So if you scroll down, so really,
Ryan, while you're up there, I want to talk about the fire doors there, because, some of this stuff is efficiency. So, if you look at number 14, for example, when we're going through this, we're thinking about buying some additional doors next year, but there's an economy of scales of buying them all 6 now. So that's why we're doing them now, to kind of save money, even though costs are going up, versus buying 4. So a lot of this is kind of, as we go through and negotiate some of these things, what makes the best sense as far as ordering things. Hey, we're going to order 4 this year and maybe 2 down the road. Let's just do the 6 now. We can keep it close to the cost per door cost that we originally had, even though the overall cost went up. So again, it's just, a lot of this is trying to be more efficient and smarter as far as how we do things, and then kind of looking at things beyond just this year. Because some of the stuff we're going to be doing next year, and we got to be smart about it, because there's huge lead times on a lot of this stuff as well.
Yep. Yeah, and to that point too, part of even the variances that we looked at is the timing of making a deposit and then the final payment upon delivery. So there's that timing component. But in the end, the variances, if you scroll down, so that including in the properties is about 650,000. Again, taking out the properties, which is already in our cash flow, it's about that 50,000 of contingency. You can see the 2.373 was in our original budget in terms of the breakout, and then the 3,024,000, which again incorporated in the cash flow and a timing perspective, working through the different pieces. And you can see some of the ones that have been deferred based on timing and requirements.
And just to chime in here, I mean, we changed some of these things later yesterday, just because so many items that you have marked in yellow, we added just an extra 5% because we haven't contacted these folks in a while. So that might be even a low number, but it's like, hey, those numbers are 6 months old. Are they still good? We put in 5%, it might be 10, 15%, but just to give you a head, we wanted to put something in there over and above what we had in there.
And I know we covered how we cover this in the cash flow, but can you review that again briefly, just in terms of covering the additional expenses?
So Beth, can you put that put the financial stuff up? Thanks. So you see item number 19. If you notice this, almost every month that number changes, and it actually goes out 12 months. It actually goes out further than that. That just changes as we get updates on what we are. So those numbers change from last month because of all these changes that we made. So they're changed, and the grants change a lot of times because of the timing. But that capital contribution is our portion of those numbers.
And so that's out of our own cash?
Yes.
600.
Yes.
Okay.
So when it says capital purchase, that bracket's negative, that's our contributions, and then the line 21 is kind of what we would get back in grants on some of this stuff.
And that's factored into the cash days on hand, so we've got the resources available to cover it.
Yes. So you can see that flows through, and then you get down, and like I said, this is only goes out 6 months just because you run out of space. But if you go back to this one, you see that 254 is right there, and it kind of goes all the way out 12 months on this one. So again, it's updated, you know, on here, so we have all this cash on hand. Okay? Because obviously, we don't have the cash, we can't get it. So, okay.
Yeah, so that,
Go ahead. Well,
so that was it. We're just looking for approval to amend that budget with the, you know, the new variances that are in there with the 650, 741. Again, knowing that's included in the cash flow and some of those projections. And one thing we didn't mention is we've only spent about $635,000 to date. So again, just kind of being conservative of should we actually get everything that we had programmed, that's what the number would be.
Thank you. Thank you, John, too.
Yeah. You're good to get back to a point when bids are valid for more than 15 minutes?
Right.
So we're looking for a motion to approve the capital budget amendment.
I'll make the motion, Frank.
Paul's motion, Mike second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Second.
All right, that's
Aye.
done. Thank you, guys. Any new business for the Finance Committee? All right, motion to adjourn the Finance Committee. Michael? Aye.
Second.
We are adjourned.
Finished it. You finished your coffee.
Want to keep rolling?
Sure, let's go right into it.
Okay.
Welcome to the June 23rd Business Committee meeting. Sylvette, can you take roll call, please?
Yes, sir. Justin Grimshaw.
Here.
Don Gottschall.
Here. Here.
Hi, Don, thank you. James Irwin. Jeff Matskin.
Here.
Glenn Reedman. I thought I saw him on.
Here.
There he is.
Here.
Chris Worley. Tara Zirinsky.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Any public comment?
No, sir.
All right. Start with the approval of the May meeting minutes. I have a motion to approve.
Make a motion. So move.
Any questions?
So move.
Second?
I'll second, Tara.
Any questions? All right, minutes are approved. So before we get into this, I'm a little nicer than Frank. You're gonna be up there for a long time today, Ryan. So if you'd like to pull a chair up, man, feel free. I feel like your legs are about to get tired.
Go fast.
I was just saying.
If he stands, it'll go faster.
Everyone strap in, he's gonna be up there for a while, so. We'll start with the approval of the structure demolition. It's for some residential properties that are owned by the airport.
All right, thanks, Justin. So, what we're looking for here is approval for items that we had in our operating budget for structure demolition. But again, to what we were talking about earlier, there's some economies of scale of increasing the amount of properties that we want to demolish. Basically, in a nutshell, we've acquired some properties over the years, various areas. Majority of them were from the FedEx Ground Road widening project. You can see basically where they're located. A lot of them are just behind the maintenance shop on Ray Street, Willowbrook Road. We're looking to demolish 9 structures, and we currently have about 15 various areas of the property that we're looking to demolish in the future. So you scroll down so that, so what we're looking to do is coordinate with the Gordian Group, who is part of the Keystone Purchasing Network, so it's a cooperative purchasing program that we've used before. We have not worked with the Gordian Group before, but they actually came recommended to us from the Bureau of Catasauqua. They've actually used them for similar projects. So we had budgeted $225,000 for structure demolition this year. We've currently spent about 20 of that doing hazardous material, asbestos removal. All the properties are ready to be demolished. The price from the Gordian Group is $374,775 by actually combining the 9 properties versus piecemealing to try and get within our budget number. It actually saves us about $200,000 in cost for mobilization and equipment. The one thing too to keep in mind is it's not just the buildings we're demolishing. It's taking down trees, the driveways, basically making it a clean, potential future development of the site. So it is a safety concern now. Again, some of them have been abandoned vacant for quite some time. And the other big piece we were just talking about with CARES and ARPA, we're actually going to utilize some of our ARPA grant funds, which covers 100% of the costs as part of an operating expense, which is this is. So it's kind of that once a generation opportunity to use grant funds for structured demolition that doesn't always come along. So looking for approval to enter an agreement with the Gordian Group for $374,775.73. Demolish the 9 properties, and we went back and forth with them quite a few times, and our engineer just confirming all the prices are in line with where they should be. Any questions?
Any questions on that?
Yeah, I'm not a committee member, can I ask?
You can ask.
So I'm just curious, though, I think you have 6 other structures that have to be demolished. Demolished. I'm an electrician, there you go. Demolished. Why didn't you roll those into the current and just, when talking about economy of scale, would you get a better price? The contractor doesn't have to mobilize, demobilize?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. So a lot of them are little, 2 of them actually are non-residential structures. One of them is the government building, over here, the old administration building. And the other one is another industrial property. So it was really just the timing. So we are looking at doing those. But where they're located, they would have had to move equipment anyway.
I was going to say, part of that
It's not
is
continuous like
they were not
property or something?
contiguous properties, and the remainder are scattered in different areas, and that was part of it as well. There would be more mobilization.
That's a good question.
Thank you.
I actually have one as well. You said that you reached out to Catasauqua. Was there any other, like, is this the only group we worked with on getting numbers for, or did we work on getting other numbers?
So we did get some estimates as part of kind of the original budgeting, but kind of the reason to go with the Gordian Group is through the cooperative purchasing, they actually do work with various contractors that have the set prices. So we did go through that with them. It was in line with the estimates that we had, and it was just in terms of going the cooperative purchasing route. You get some of that cost savings and time savings, versus the traditional bid process.
Any other questions? Hearing none, I'll take a motion to approve the structure
So
demolition.
moved.
Second?
So moved.
Any questions on the
Second.
motion?
Yeah.
All right. Motion approved. Ryan, you want to jump to the multimodal grant application resolution?
Sure. Into this as well. So what we're looking for here is we're planning to apply for a PA Department of Community and Economic Development Multimodal Transportation Fund grant. The applications are due by the end of July, but in order to submit the application, we need to provide a resolution authorizing us to apply for the funds, and if we're successful, authorize Tom Stout to execute the documents. So the DCD multimodal funding is limited, or it's capped at $3 million, and based on what we're thinking of using it for, in terms of access road improvements to the multimodal center and potential compatible non-aeronautical development, as we've talked about in the past. The grant itself is a 70-30 split, so it would require a 30% match, roughly $1.2 million. With the timing of when we would do the project, we program it into next year's capital budget. So we're just looking for approval for the resolution to apply for the funds, see if we're successful on those.
Any questions on that?
Is this something that Lehigh Valley Planning Commission plays a role in, running through their process or whatever?
Yes, yeah, that's a good question. So they actually have to provide a letter supporting the project and that it meets their future LB. So yeah, so that'll be provided as one of the exhibits as part of the application.
We had any discussions with them? Are there any issues there that you see?
No, we've talked about this in the past through our master plan process. And I actually just had a recent meeting with PennDOT talking through some of the improvements, so we don't foresee any issues with it.
Any other questions? All right, I'll take a motion to approve. This one seems pretty easy. Take a motion to
I'll make a
approve.
motion, Tara.
I'm going to do the application. Second? Thanks, Jimmy. Appreciate it. Any questions on the motion? All right, motion's approved. Let Ryan continue up there with the resolution update for 7247 RACP.
Great, thank you. So what we're actually looking to do with these next two is update resolutions that were passed back in November by the board when we submitted our RACP applications for the connector project. Since we originally submitted, excuse me, dry throat today. Since we originally submitted the applications, at the time we only had $1 million worth of RACP funding. Now, based on a lot of our efforts, which I think you've seen, we've talked about, we've got an additional $3 million. So we're updating the resolutions to reflect the total amount of $4 million. This first one is for us as the grantee. And again, part of this, where we are in the process, is we're working with our consultant and the state's consultant to prepare that full application package. So all of the different awards that we got will be rolled into one $4 million application, so we're not managing 3 different grants. So we're really just looking to update the resolution to match the $4 million number. So hence the
I
combined.
had to deal with one in my life. I don't want there to be a
I
second.
know two, and I don't want to deal with them ever again.
Hence why we want to roll it all into one.
Yeah, yeah.
Yep.
Paperwork doesn't shrink based on the dollars, it multiplies.
Any questions on that? I'll take a motion to approve the resolution update.
So moved. So moved.
Second?
Second.
Thank you.
I vote for both.
Any questions on the motion? All right, motion stands. All right, continue. This is basically the same thing, a resolution update for 7248.
Yeah, this one is just revolves around the grant match. So by getting $4 million, we have to match it with $4 million, which we actually exceed that number based on the construction costs and where we're tracking everything else.
Any questions on that?
Where is the match coming from?
So Don, the match is coming from LNAA funds through our bank financing.
Or borrowing it.
I mean, it's
Gotcha.
yeah, it's borrowed. It's through the funding, and then built into the cash flow as part of the project.
I'm gonna explain, Ryan. I don't understand it fully, but so I'm gonna muster through this, and then you can explain it from there. Because you have to have so much cash on hand because of how the split works. So that's how we were able to combine all these because of the loan that's out there, correct?
Correct.
And you
Yeah.
explain that in English?
So that was pretty good.
That was pretty
So
good
each grant that we get has a matching requirement, and it varies depending on where the funding is coming from. So this one being a 50-50, by getting $4 million, we have to match it with 4. Depending on the size of the project, it can come from the bank financing. Ultimately, it comes from our money, our side of things.
Right. Ultimately, we can't get the project entirely funded with grants. There has to be some LNAA local monies in the project. The actual amount depends on which grants we got, what the percentage split is. Is it a 70-30 match or 50-50? And so that's why, as we've talked before, and we kind of tracking this very closely for that reason. So as we continue to be successful on one hand at getting grants, we have to make sure we continue to provide enough local match money in the project from ourselves or through bank financing. So.
Thank you.
And was the RCAP for actual construction, purchase of equipment?
For construction.
Oh, construction cost.
Yeah.
Yep.
Any other questions? All right, I'll take a motion to approve the resolution update 7248.
So moved.
So moved.
I'll use that as a first and a second. We're not going to try to get a second again. Any questions on the motion? All right, motion approved. For this last item, I'd like to enter into executive session, if that's okay.
Somebody needs to make a motion for
I'll
that.
make a motion for that.
I don't know if I can. I'm not on the committee.
And I got it first. Can I get a second?
Yes.
Sorry about
Oh, it's okay, Mike.
Okay, we are back.
Judge, would you like to walk us through what happened in executive session, please?
Yes, the executive session was conducted to provide information. Staff provided information about the status of terminal connector contract and amendments that are going to be proposed during the public session. There was information provided, members asked questions, and there were responses to those questions. However, there was no formal motion presented. That'll happen now during the public session, and the discussion by the Board of Governors and the deliberation will all be conducted during this public session.
Thank you. I'm going to take a motion to approve the terminal connector contract amendments as presented.
I'll make a motion.
Thank you. Second? Second. Any questions on the motion? Okay, motion passed. Ryan, for your last act of today, would you like to take us through the capital projects update, please?
Sure. Yep. Thank you, Justin. I guess.
Excuse me, I think you need a formal vote of the board members on the motion before you can depart. So I would ask that you ask for a formal vote of the board members.
All right. So we got the first, we got the second. We asked for questions. All in favor, saying aye?
Aye.
Any opposed, say no? Okay, motion passed. Thank you, Judge.
Yes.
Now, Ryan, for your last act of the day.
Yeah, two last acts. We'll have this presentation, and then we'll go through the connector one as well. So in terms of our runway work, kind of showed this before, kind of where we are. The area in the middle, this pink actually, they just finished paving this past week, and they're currently working on the green section, kind of that Midfield West right now. Again, kind of seeing what we've done in the light blue, kind of see where we're working, with the different packages, which I'll kind of go through here quickly. Talked about this a little bit last time in terms of our weather go, no go, in order for our cargo carriers to utilize our crossway runway while the main runway is closed. No real change here. The biggest thing is the center line lights out of service, looking to get those back on in August timeframe. July, August. So really where we are, again, I mentioned some of the paving completed. Package one, we're actually looking to coordinate the closeout with the FAA, so get that final funding from them and reimbursed, while we continue on the other packages. Package two, we're waiting on a flight check from the FAA for our precision approach path indicator lights the pilots use. And again, we talked about the runway center line lighting to be completed later in August. Package three, again, most of that paving, you can see on the right's been done. They're just waiting on the final markings as part of the paving that they're actually doing in package four, which is some of what they were doing now, as well as some of that shoulder under drain we've talked about before that they're working through. And looking to make some of the taxiway designation changes in July based on the new FAA standards. We added in here the grant that was approved last month, so we're still waiting on the official grant documents, but package 5 is the actual runway shoulder construction that we're looking to start up hopefully in August timeframe based on the grant working with the contractor now on some of the administrative, paperwork that's required. So one item I wanted to update the committee on, with the approval we had a few months back about the EMAS rehab project. We did do a field strength test, we're waiting on those results, but the week of July 11th, we're looking to do that work for those seam seal replacements. So, next committee will kind of go through how that went and some photos there. So that's, that one's on track. In terms of Queen City, again, we are still waiting on the grant funding for the construction or the official paperwork for the 1533 rehabilitation. But again, looking to start that up in August as well. Basically paving the areas in red that you see on the left there. And then Brayton Air Park, again, still anticipate late summer completion. We're working on pricing for the parking lot rehab. Have an inspection with the township currently scheduled. But you can actually see we had a walkthrough with PennDOT last week, kind of showing the space, seeing if there are punch list items. We can get our final reimbursement to get the $325,000 in funding that we got as part of the project. So you can see there's still some work that we have to do in July with the some of the porticos, awnings, and the parking lot. But it's definitely coming together pretty nicely out there, which is good. And just a summary that we typically go through, no major changes from last time, just updating what we've spent to date. But again, just have that up there for the committee. And I guess before I get into the connector, that was what I had on that. Any questions?
Just a kind of sort of related question. How's general aviation traffic been given avgas being so expensive? Is that volume cut down in the last?
Darren, you want
I don't think we've seen a big reduction, to be honest with you. I mean, general aviation traffic's been less and less annually as it goes, but you're not seeing a big change really. Corporate aviation's honestly doing quite well, even with the increase in fuel.
Because the majors are canceling flights left and right. No one wants to risk it.
You're also seeing is all these folks that kind of transitioned to charter and corporate during COVID.
They like it.
They have the ability to continue doing it. They're not going back to the commercial side. So
it's nice going to the airport, getting on a plane and leaving.
Yeah, right, exactly. With two other people and a flight attendant to serve you drinks. You know,
Yeah.
you can't beat it, right? So, yeah, we're definitely seeing that segment is booming and continue. You see that in some of the aviation services revenues and things that Todd shows that are way up because of that. So, yeah. So overall, not bad. I mean, flight training seems to still be going pretty well, which is good. Partial flight school is still doing okay.
Do with planes now where you can fix that with a lower cost.
Oh, partial ownership interest. Yeah, gas prices just went to the moon. It's what, $7 a gallon? Yeah.
To John's point though, what about Braden? Because I view as Braden is not like commercial, more recreational.
That is truly totally recreational. It's
Do you
about,
see drop off there or not?
it's about status quo, really. I mean, unfortunately, we haven't had a lot of activity there over the last several years, but it's about status quo.
Well, just you look at cost of fuel, you think maybe somebody.
Yeah, you definitely see some. I think some of the quote-unquote weekend warrior folks are probably not flying as much as they typically have, but it doesn't show you. You don't notice a huge change in sales or anything because of it.
Okay.
Good questions. All right, last but not least, our connector update. Really where we are, a lot's actually happened this past month, which is great. In terms of some of the work that's been completed, we actually relocated the concession storage from Wiley into their new space to make way for where the bridge is going to go. Finished some of the foundation walls, as you'll see in the photos, as well as framing out all the TSA office space, the support space we were talking about before. Really, some of the ongoing work you'll see is a lot of the vertical circulation work has been ongoing. The elevator concrete masonry unit structure that you'll see is pretty impressive, as well as some of the HVAC ductwork, sprinkler, piping, as well as some of those. And as you've heard here and there, the restroom renovations continue to move forward. Again, some upcoming is really some of the same work that we're doing now. The biggest thing is probably the structural steel decking for the vertical circulation core. As you'll see, will be coming up here in the next few weeks. As It's really where the site is. As of yesterday morning, you can see that elevator core kind of on the back right, and some of the steel that's gone up around it as part of that new vertical circulation core. Excuse me. Talked a little bit about some of the temporary siding to enclose the space so they can continue working on the finishes before the steel siding arrives, which I think right now is scheduled in September. Right, September. Yeah. So again, to keep, the schedule moving forward. Again, you can see some of the ductwork in the ceiling, TSA offices below, some of the fit out, a lot of metal studs, as you can see. And just some additional photos of that. Again, some of that bulkhead area in the offices. Again, another view of the offices. Some more ductwork. Again, more ductwork piping. You can see, again, the biggest thing is just coordinating all the trades around each other. Again, some of the electrical conduits have started to go in as well.
I'd appreciate a picture of that, you know.
Like a solid somewhere, yeah.
No, there was a rack going there, we saw.
Got to look harder.
Yeah, we saw it.
Again, above some of the offices.
There you go.
Yep, thanks.
Yep. Working through those. So, again, it's kind of that elevator pit. And for some that may have remembered before, kind of on the left here, this was kind of the opening of them getting into this area that's now being closed off. So you can really see everything taking shape. Some more shots there. And then as in the last couple days, starting some of the support roof decking, as you can see. The curve in the wall there. And some work in the bathrooms that they've been framing out. Piping.
A lot of wires. I see a lot of
wires.
A lot of wires, man.
A lot of wires and conduits there. Again, some of the new plumbing. So again, talking through the phasing, working again on the vertical circulation core, waterproofing. Again, where we are, tracking, again, just under about 50% complete. You can see where we are with each of the different areas. And again, as we move forward, kind of the second phase of bringing the checkpoint online, elevators and escalators, and then the tunnel renovations. We talked about a little bit about these before, but again, some of the challenges that we've encountered as part of the project. Our grant funding, where we are, what's pending, and then you can see where we're tracking, contingency and expense-wise, and then the schedule as well. So any questions on that?
And just as a reminder, after board on Tuesday, we will have a tour of the project for folks that are interested in seeing the conduits up close and personal.
Justin will be there.
I'm glad we're not doing that today.
You can take pictures.
I'll take pictures for them. Thanks, I appreciate it.
Any other questions for Ryan? All right. Any new business? Don't believe we have any other reason to go into an executive session, so I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you. I gotta take a vote on that too, or are we good? All right.
Determine.
Yep. Okay, we'll take a 5-minute break, then we'll go into exec. Should be pretty quick, actually.
Colin has a 45-minute presentation.
Not even an hour. I want you to, a floor-by-floor update when you were in Harrisburg last week.
20 minutes.
Hopefully it's fine.
Okay, Colin, let me know when we are good to go.
We're good.
We're good to go, thank you. Good morning, everyone. Want to welcome everyone to the, June 23rd. It's hard to believe the year's almost halfway over. June 23rd, 2022 meeting of the Executive Committee of the Lehigh Northampton Airport Authority. Sylvette, could you call the roll, please?
John Hayes.
Here.
Glenn Reedman.
Present.
Justin Grimstraw.
Here.
Mike Stershik.
Here.
Tara Zirinsky. And Matt had to get off the call.
Okay,
But we have a quorum.
sounds good, thank you. Any public comment?
No, sir.
Okay. A couple of action items today. First is approval of the meeting minutes of the May 26, 2022 meeting. They were circulated
So
and
moved.
posted on Novus. We have a motion by Glenn. Do I have a second by Mike? Any additions, deletions, or corrections? Hearing none, all those in favor of the subject motion indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next is approval of the Florio Perucci invoice for May of 2022. That was also posted in Novus. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion by Mike, second. Second by Justin. Any discussion on the invoice? Hearing none, all those in favor of the subject motion indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay, 2 discussion items on the agenda. We have Colin for a government relations update, government and community relations update, I should say.
Mr. Hayes said this would be quick, so we're gonna be quick. Well, good morning. Obviously, always appreciate the opportunity to talk about government relations, and I'm also gonna talk about community engagement as well for the authority. But government relations over the last several months, we've been busy, obviously you've seen, and it's the ongoing engagement that's been important for us. We've done a state of the airport for the Northeast delegation, which is chaired by Maureen Madden from up in the Poconos, and the vice chair is actually Jeannie McNeil, who is our representative here in the Lehigh Valley. Director Anthony McCluskey from the PennDOT Bureau was here to look at the connector project, and that's important because the Bureau of Aviation over the last couple of years has given us about $3.5 million. So to have him here to see the project and walk the site is important. They like the two-way communication. Nobody likes when you knock on the door and just ask for money and are not involved in the entire process. So it was great to have him here, and the Bureau of Aviation has been so supportive through all of our projects throughout the entire airport system. So it was great to have Director McCluskey here. We're up June 13th and 14th. I actually saw Mr. Hayes at the Capitol. We had legislative meetings in Harrisburg to talk to about a whole host of items going on here at the airport. Then also this Friday we have County Executive Phillips Armstrong, who wants to come out and do his Lehigh County podcast with Tom. And then we're planning a terminal connector TSA checkpoint project legislative day for later in the summer. Obviously, our legislators are in Harrisburg right now working through the budget, so we really don't know when they'll be returning to their districts. So talking to them, we're looking latter part of the summer to have a legislative day here at the airport regarding the project. Ryan walked through some of this, so I might go through these slides pretty quickly in regards to the terminal connector funding. We did submit to the BOA in December of 2021 for some funding for the terminal connector TSA checkpoint project. It was an eligible $5 million item in the funding for the Bureau of Aviation. In 2021, we got 1.7. In 2022, we got 1.6, 3.53. So as you see there, there's a little wiggle room. But we talked about it earlier in regards to that extra, whatever it'll turn out, 1.4 million. We have to be careful about the match of where we are. So we're not going to ask. The worst thing we can do is ask and then have to give back. That's not what we want to do. So we're just going to keep monitoring it. It's still there if the opportunity presents itself. But the Bureau of Aviation, again, supports the project, understands it, as you can see through their support through this funding and previous funding. So we're just going to continue to monitor that from the Bureau of Aviation. RACP, we started out with $1 million in 2020, really revamped the approach and discussing the project. Look, it's a need. It's not a like to have, want to have. This is a need for this airport. That resonated not just with our state legislator, but with the governor as well. We got $2 million in RACP, plus an additional from Governor Wolf later on, probably in the springtime of this year. So a total of $4 million of RACP money, which was great. A tremendous amount of support from throughout the region with our legislators and different organizations giving those letters of support, understanding the need here at the airport to be able to process more passengers with the growth that's going on here in the Lehigh Valley. One of the previous, one of my presentation in January, I talked about the Airport Land Development Zone, the ALDIZ as we call it, is right now in the first draft of the tax code. That's good news for us because it's better to be in the tax code through the first draft than try to fight your way in through further drafts. It means that the legislators understand what this could bring to the region and for all airports throughout the Commonwealth. It's a $2,100 tax credit per net new job created for a maximum of 10 years, and it incentivizes the development of vacant land and buildings owned by airports or leased to private businesses. You can remember the Majestic project. That's an opportunity. Some other projects that we may do on the airport Land as well is certainly there. Job creation and non-aeronautical revenue. We talk about so much of the aeronautical. This will help with our non-aeronautical revenue generation as well. So we're hoping that this gets passed through. Right now, fingers crossed. Again, I don't celebrate until it's dried ink and on paper, but right now, certainly something that's very promising for airports across the Commonwealth. The infrastructure bill, Ryan talked about this. This was the airport terminal program that was created through this infrastructure bill signed back in 2021. It's $5 billion for new airport terminal redevelopment. That is a competitive process. It's not like the allocated money we typically get from the FAA, where it's a formula. We've gotten 3.5 million extra dollars. This is a competitive process. It's about $200 million, I believe, Tom, for airports of our size for this year. So $5 billion, so $1 billion a year over 5 years for all airports, but for our airports, which is great that we're not competing against Philly and Pittsburgh and those larger airports. This is about $200 million for airports of our size, not in the state, across the country. But the FAA right now is evaluating our application as well as others. We submitted on April 1st. We had letters of support from Senator Casey as well as Congresswoman Wild. They're expected to announce in July of 2022. I'm not projecting that that's going to happen, but you never know. There's a lot going on in Washington right now, but hopefully the FAA can get this moving. And certainly the project out here, the terminal connector, checks a lot of the boxes when you look at the eligible projects portion of this. So it was important for us to go in and try to get the money for this project. It was a $5 million submission. So when you look at how we can kind of slide, we've spent the 5, but we can slide this piece in and take ours back out through this terminal program, which was not there, obviously, when we started doing this project, because this was part of the infrastructure bill. So this is a great thing for the airport. Hopefully we're able to connect on that funding as well. And as soon as we know, certainly we'll pass that along. Community project funding. This is to support some specific community projects as part of the annual appropriations process at the federal side. We put in a $600,000 request on behalf of the authority to purchase and install 2 additional exit portals. We had 2 for the exit down here and going into baggage claim, but for some extra funding, we can get 2 additional, make it more efficient and have 4 instead of 2. That project was one of 15 selected by Congresswoman Wild and pushed forward. So right now, the Appropriations Committee and all of members of Congress are still working through the community project funding applications, but certainly to be eligible for it and be in the arena with the support of our federal legislators. Senator Casey has also supported these projects in the past for us. It's a good thing, and it just shows the growing understanding that the airport is an economic driver within the region. We continue to grow as a region, so the airport's going to need to continue to grow. So we'll wait for a final determination from Congress in regards to the community project funding. That should be hopefully by fall, could be earlier. They always project something and then it could come in a few months earlier. But some funding opportunities going on right now for the airport authority and for the airport, which is it's good to see. I'm going to switch gears a little bit here, and then we can have any questions after. But customer experience is another avenue of the departments here at the airport authority. We believe in the customer experience, it's the comfort and the convenience, but there are a lot of programs and partnerships we've built over the years in regards to customer experience. And I wanted to introduce you to the team for customer experience. Paula Bonstein's been here 25 years. She's the manager of customer experience. Leanne Hill joined us from Muhlenberg College about a year ago. She's a coordinator for customer experience. And really, these are the faces that go out and speak on behalf of the airport at different events and really engage the community for a whole variety of things that I'll show you as we move along here. We also have customer service representatives. Those are the lovely individuals you speak to when you call into the airport. They work in conjunction with our operations center, so they can answer any questions for passengers or customers. We have 4 of them that man the phones up in the administrative offices. We have 28 volunteers broken down into several different categories. The navigators are a lot of retirees and people that enjoy the public interaction and coming here and helping the airport. So we have a navigator program that's been very successful, a junior navigator program. This young gentleman right here, high school kids looking for those community service hours. given the opportunity. It's when we go to those high school career fairs and high school fairs, we promote these programs because it's really an opportunity to introduce them to the airport and all the things that the aviation industry does within the Lehigh Valley. And the COPE program, which is one of the more popular programs, the Canines Offering Passengers Encouragement. Since 2015, when the program was introduced, 41 dogs have participated in the program. I think we have about 15 that are active right now. And really, you can just, the passengers, even during the pandemic, so many were disappointed that the COPE dogs were not here. The smiles and at all ages, when they're able just to pet the dog, is certainly something that's rewarding for not just the handler, but for the airport as well. We have a lot of different ways that we engage organizations within the Lehigh Valley, and we try to find unique ideas to bring them into the airport. The Airport Book Exchange is a take a book, leave a book, and you would think nowadays, man, everybody's reading on their phones, everybody's reading on their tab. They're not. We have a sticker that we put in books. We've got about 1,000 this year alone for people traveling, and this is a conjunction with Allentown, Bethlehem, and Easton Public Libraries. So they provide the books, and we have events with them throughout the year. They did a reading session as well. So that's a good thing to see the book exchange and its growth with the libraries and the importance of expressing the importance of literacy.
The books make it back.
Do the books come back?
Yeah.
Yes, they're exchanged. They've left.
I think with people traveling, I think it'd be easy just to.
It's amazing, and it's fun. At all ages. I mean, it's not just for older people. There are a lot of children's books on there as well, and they do leave books as well. So, but we've been going through books, quite frequently. Hidden Disabilities Sunflower Lanyard Program. We introduced this in April. It's a lanyard right here in the lower left-hand corner for those individuals that may have autism or other hidden disabilities. And it's a way for them to be recognized by our staff, TSA, or other stakeholders in regards to needing a little extra time, needing just some extra help. And we've actually, through a meeting with an organization, they talked about the fact that lanyards may be, for some individuals, may be uncomfortable. They may not want to wear a lanyard. So what we've done is we've invested in stickers and we've invested in bracelets as well. So there are different ways, through just discussions of this program, that we've been able to grow it. We have Valley Against Sex Trafficking, VAST, human trafficking as well. Several years ago we had a victim of human trafficking coming and speak to our staff here. And this right here is the Red Sand Project. And what it is, it's a nationwide program in which you take red sand and you put it in the cracks of a sidewalk or roads, and it signifies people that have fallen through the cracks through human trafficking. It's important to us. We're a transportation hub. You never know. Through the FBI, we had them come in and speak where that is happening throughout the Lehigh Valley, throughout the state. So we actually have signs within our bathrooms as well with information in case people are in that position or for information for others. So we drew that. Wings for All is our through the Arc of Lehigh and Northampton counties. It's an event that's impacted over 300 families over the years. And you see this young girl here. She has autism, and she was able to get on a plane. And it's a rehearsal for air travel for those with autism and other intellectual and developmental disabilities. We take them through the entire airport experience, and that's through a great partnership with Allegiant. It's slowed down a little bit because of the pandemic, but we're hoping to bring that back soon. And then, of course, we have the Military Resource Center for our military veterans and active service members. Some more community outreach. We do facility tours for different groups. That's a puppy tour for seeing eye dogs that are in training. We have tours for anything, really. We've had people contact us in regards to we're traveling and an individual of ours needs some extra assistance. We just want to see and understand the facility. We've been able to do that and give facility tours. We're bringing back our Fear of Flying seminars. Those are starting hopefully this fall. And then we participate in expos. The Lehigh Valley Vacation Expo, you can see Paula, as well as Leanne, also at a high school career community service fairs. It's engaging the public. It's the outreach to the public that is so important to us. And my last slide here, we talk about programs and events. We have an Aero Club, 125 members. That's actually down. The reason it's down, business travel has reduced, and a lot of people that did our Aero Club were business travelers. But we're seeing the resurgence. That was actually below 100 at one point, and we've kind of regained traction. They have their own parking lot close to the terminal, so that's it's good for them, and that program continues to grow. We have our employee recognition program, which has been really a lot of fun to see the public really taking advantage of this. And when they have great service, it takes them, this is gotta go on the website and submit a form. And there's so many people for stakeholders, whether it's the TSA, the airlines, our staff, where the employee recognition program has really been an opportunity to recognize those people. And we have a luncheon for them at the end of the year for those that are recognized with props, and those that also get other submissions that goes in their personnel file, which is great to continue to build that up and build up really the camaraderie within the airport. We have our newsletters that go out, Boarding Pass and GA Today, and then we do our TSA pre-check, which we're about 12,000 people almost registered, movie at the air park. This is all Paula, Leanne, marketing, you go through it. It's a collaborative effort to put on events like this, and then we do our blood drives as well. So you can see there's so much variety, and this is just a snapshot of it all. So, there's a lot that goes on within the airport, but I just wanted to share that, share more members of the team here so that people, when they see them, can engage with them as well. So I don't know if anybody had any questions for me on the governmental side or the community engagement side.
Thanks, Colin. Questions for Colin? Good report. Okay, thank you. Okay, next we have on the agenda, I think we have Darren for a development update.
Yes, and we're going to actually run into exec session for his update, if that's okay.
Sounds good. I'll entertain a motion to move to executive session. Motion by Mike, second.
Second.
By Justin. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the subject motion indicate by saying.
Or was there any vote with regard to them? Purely information session.
Okay, thank you, Judge. Last item on the agenda then is any new business, a new or old business to bring before exec committee today? Okay, hearing none, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn. Mike, Justin got you to it. Justin made the motion. We're good to go, everyone. Thank you, and I'll see you on Tuesday. And remember, as Tom mentioned, we have a tour of the construction site after the meeting on Tuesday, so love to see everybody out on that. So with that, we're adjourned.
All right, thank you.